Perfect. Perfect. Alright, so my mini spool just arrived. Fortunately, I'm quickly running out of bench space, but let's see if we can get into this anyway. See what we got. Well, that's an interesting shaped package. Aha. Come on. There we go. So with this, I'll be able to replace those spider gears with heaps of backlash and just have a solid chunk of metal. So we'll be able to throw the pins through there to lock it to the housing. Axles go in these ends, and no more spider gears, only mini spool. So that'll be awesome. Let's get it in there. All right, so as you can see, I got the discs to fit. So next is put the mini spool in the center. So I'll buzz all these bolts out, take the axles out of either end, pull the center out with the 4 bolts that hold it in, pull the center apart, pull out spider gears, put the spool in, put it all back together, put it back in here, put everything back on the ends, and then this is done. All right, so both of the axles are out, and then I took the back cover off, bunch of 13s, and then these 4 bolts here, the next ones, they're 16s I believe, so we'll buzz them out, and then we'll get the center out. All right, once you get your caps off, make sure you keep them in the correct order. So this one goes to this side, that one goes to that side, and the correct orientation as well. Then this center will lift out, but on each side are shims. So there's one shim there, there's another shim there. There might be like 3 or 4 if you're lucky. So yeah, just grab on that, yank it out. You'll probably get dirty, you'll be right. All right, so with a little bit of help from my cuzzy bro, I was able to get this out. So pretty much just got someone to hold the pinion while I pried on the diff center as best I could, and it came out. So I made sure to keep the shims in the correct side and remember their orientation and which way they go, and then keep the bearing races on the correct side as well. So just inspect your diff case and your pinion, make sure there's no chunks missing, no hot spots, doesn't look too fucked. It's a Borg 178, so a bit of scoring is fine. Bearings feel pretty smooth, which is good. So the next thing, probably just clean this surface here so we can put a new gasket on it later, and then with this we're going to pull it apart now. Okay, so we've got a new tray for this one to go on. So if you have a look closely, all these bolts have an L stamped into them. There it is, which means they're left-handed threads. So when you go lefty-loosey, you're actually going lefty tightening it and then righty loosening. So when you take these all off, right hand twist like that so that it actually comes off, because if you do it the other way, you just stretch and fuck the bolt. So undo all these, and then we've got to knock these roll pins out to get the center section out. Alright, so once I undid all those, twisted them to the right, the crown wheel just fell off, which is lucky because sometimes they're interference fit and a pain in the ass to get off. So next is these roll pins. So just got to tap all 4 of them through, and they hold the cross pins in place. So knock the dowels through and separate this after we knock those pins through and get all the spider gears out, and then put the mini spool in. Alright, so after buying a new set of punches so that I could use this one out of it, because my old ones weren't up to the task, I was able to knock these pins through pretty much all the way. So next is to knock these pins out, and this actually should come apart once these pins are out. Alright, so once you get all your pins all the way out, then you just knock these through. So just make sure you got a big drift of some description, and also make sure, if you see in here, 2 of them don't go all the way through and 1 of them does. So this one on the left was the one that went all the way through, so you got to knock that one out first, then the other ones will come out afterwards. So next, just grab a flat blade screwdriver, jam it in there, don't be afraid, make sure it's sharp, give it a whack, shouldn't do any damage because these are pretty hard, and then this will come apart and reveal the dreaded spider gears that are going in the bin. So pull them out, and this center block which aligns those pins. So I think I damaged mine a little bit. Anyway, pull this shit out, and then you get ready to put your mini spool in. Okay, once you get all this crap out, there should be some, I'll get rid of those as well, they're the shims for the spider gears, but there's like a another shim here to space the spider gears correctly, I guess. I'm not too sure if it's supposed to stay in or not, but but I'm going to leave mine in because it looks like it helps line my spool up. So this is your mini spool, it's all the same shape, so just drop that in, and then what we're going to do is reassemble those big rods there and the pins into this housing while it's apart, and then put it back together afterwards. So we'll do that now, and make sure when you push these pins in, they line up with those holes so that you can put the, obviously they'll be like this, but it's so that you can put the dowel back through that roll pin, these ones, because if they're not lined up and they're like that, they're never going to fit. So you got to make sure they're like this so that you can line up the holes. Alright, once you get all the pins back in, make sure they don't come too far out, or you can protrude them a little bit if you want, but you've got to make sure that when you put this side on, I've got this bearing spacer thing in there again on this side, just because I feel like it's supposed to be there, and there's only 3 holes for the dowels to go through, so you've got to line it up with the 3 holes on that one so you can't get them wrong. So flip that over and put it on, and then drive these pins through the rest of the way, and it'll be time to put the crown wheel back on. Okay, so your crown wheel should just slot straight on. Make sure you line up the bolt holes with it, because it's kind of hard to twist because it's a very, very precise fit. But once it's on, you should be able to start all these by hand. Don't forget, lefty tighty. And then once they've all been started by hand, you can grab your tools and tighten it up, but make sure you do it evenly. So don't go rattling one side up and then like loosely doing the other side halfway through and all that sort of garbage. So tighten all that up, and then it's ready to go back in. Okay, now that this is all back together and all these bolts are tightened up and a bit of Loctite on them if you feel like it, make sure they're super, super tight. You don't want them falling out in the car. I don't remember the torque setting, I just rattle it up. Anyway, next we put our bearing caps and our shims in place, and then we reset it back in the diff and then put the caps on, which are there. So throw all that back together and tighten those caps up to a specified torque setting. Alright, once you get that crown wheel back in, rotate the pinion as you go so that it settles down in there nicely. You might need to use a dead blow or like a brass punch or something to just tap the sides of the center case down just to seat it in there nicely. Put these caps on, do them up finger tight, and then torque them to spec and everything. And then next is reinsert the axles. So before we do that, we're going to start assembling our brakes onto this diff, because this is the one that's going in the car. So that's the mini spool installation